Okay, we're going to start the toe hold defense series, and first we're going to go over the breaking mechanics of a toe hold. A toe hold is a rotation-based submission. So as I talked about with the ankle lock and the knee bar series, there are extension-based submissions like arm bars and knee bars. There are rotation-based submissions such as heel hooks, toe holds, or kimuras, where we're rotating the joint. And then we have crush-based like a calf slicer or a bicep slicer, which are the least effective. But we're now getting into rotation-based, and so we're going to have some different concepts that we're going to go through as we're talking about these defenses because they become more dangerous. They're the submissions that we see at the higher levels when we're talking about leg locks with toe holds and heel hooks, and they become more dangerous in the sense that now we're able to start attacking the knee. Even with a toe hold, we can still start to put pressure in the knee, and so if you guys don't understand what's going on and understand how to apply this properly, you're going to possibly injure people unnecessarily, as well as always, build false positives where you have improper defenses for just people that really suck at toe holds or heel hooks that are attacking you. So we're going to take a look at the toe hold from a knee reap position, the game over, inside ashy. There's a whole bunch of different names for it. So from standard ashy, what we're looking at doing is crossing over the line of my partner's thigh into a reaping territory. So in IBJJF, this would be illegal. You can do a toe hold from outside ashy or standard ashy. The whole thing is completely the same. But what we have to do is we have to control the knee as well as create a pin on the hip in this circumstance. So it can be just standard ashy. The video that I had on that is exactly the same. It can be outside ashy holding it, but the problem is when the leg's this far off to the side from me and I don't have the top, the right side of his calf, the external part of his leg exposed, it's hard for me to reach around. The reap is a great way of me being able to start creating internal rotation of his leg like this and bringing his shin across me like this with the outside of his heel already starting to get exposed to me. What we're looking at doing is bringing this leg over. If I need to, I can grab here at the knee to help control the knee line as well as create a little bit of rotation here. I can even put my foot on the mat. I'm pinching, bringing this knee down, controlling at that hip, pinning, because I don't want to allow him to mobilize his hips himself. And I'm bringing this leg up to start rotating it, bringing this leg across. So now we're getting into that reaping territory. And now bringing the leg through and starting to link my legs together. The really important part of this position is that I am controlling the inside of his knee and thigh so that he can't keep freely rotating. What I'm going to be doing is applying rotation at the end of the lever, and if his knee can keep rotating, he's just going to spin right out of it. So this leg, while it is the reaping leg, doesn't really do anything for the actual control. All it does is keep him going in this direction. This knee has to come up, and it has to shelf right underneath of his leg here so that he can't keep rotating. I really hate this old school way of doing the reap like this where you're intertwining the legs. There's the odd circumstance where you might be losing the position and you want to try and catch the opposite leg to try and just slow your opponent down. But if I'm doing this, I'm creating the space here, and if Kevin keeps turning at this point, his knee can fall through that space. So this leg is not the important leg in this circumstance, whether I'm crossing my legs or not. This knee is coming up and scraping into his thigh up towards his knee. This foot now comes underneath and crosses, and then I'm keeping this foot hooked underneath down either by his hip or somewhere up on his hamstring. I'm not concerned about trying to hook the leg out like this. That's not the important part. As I do this, even if I'm not controlling his leg, if Kevin tries to dip that knee and move it, it is shelved in place. So as always, make sure we're creating a wedge around that knee, controlling, and then have your partner try and pull away from here. Whether I'm sitting completely on my back or not, just testing, make sure that he doesn't fall right out of that. What this has done now is created some heel exposure and with the outside of his leg so that I'm going to be able to start lacing my arms together here. What we're going to look to do is take a C grip with the thumb and grab right up here by the big toe joint and over top of the pinky toe and squeeze our hands so that we're creating a weak structure of the foot. This is something that we started doing differently as we saw other guys do it. Caio Terra taught it to my Professor Rob Bernanke. Instead of doing that monkey grip over top, take the toes and squeeze them together to start making the foot weaker so that our opponent's unable to put on the boot as effectively and we have maximum lever control here. This arm's going to come underneath and create a fulcrum right here at the ankle all the way through, C grip to my wrist here. What I'm looking at doing is creating this fulcrum here so I can cause strong inversion of that ankle. And a big mistake of the old school ways of doing this toe hold is people would compress and bring the toes and foot down towards your opponent's butt. But by doing that, I'm creating a mobile fulcrum. What breaks his ankle here is the fact that I'm pushing his toes down while keeping his ankle in place or even pulling his ankle towards me like this. If I allow my right arm, the arm that's creating the fulcrum behind the ankle, to move, I'm relieving the pressure every time as I'm applying this and creating more work. And flexible guys will be able to eat this. Here, keep that knee cinched up nice and tight. Grab, grab. I push the toes down. I start bringing my top shoulder back with my elbow, pulling the heel up towards my face. So push down here. You can see I'm not actually moving his shin around at all. I'm creating rotation here. It actually will start to put more force into the knee as well. So it creates a little bit more of a dangerous submission here. Do not apply this and crush down here. If my legs are loose and I don't control the knee, all this doesn't matter because as I apply rotation, Kevin can now mobilize his hips and keep spinning freely out of it. So it's extremely important that you guys understand control in that position. If I have, say, standard Ashy, it's harder to set up from right here, but same thing, control that knee. I'm gonna put my foot on the mat, keep my knees tight. I'm gonna start scooting my hips up to drive them up like this to get that rotation. So now I can grab the toes. Now my foot immediately goes back to his hip because I need to control it. Here, rotating through, and now pushing the toes down, bringing the heel up towards me. It should be a very small motion of just this. If it was outside Ashy, same thing. We have a hard time attacking toe holds when our opponent has turned and has their leg more externally rotated away from us. I need to be able to attack from outside Ashy from like this circumstance. So if I'm here on the weak side, now I have the ability to come in and get that grip. I make sure I've cinched up so I have control of the knee, pin to the hip, access to the end of the lever. I start creating a rotation-based element. If I need to, I start taking the slack of the joint and I add an extension-based element to it as well, pulling away. So his leg will start to become slightly more extended here. Not extending the leg out like putting the boot on, but I'm just taking the slack out of the leg by pushing a little bit away at the hips and pulling away a little bit up at the foot here. And we can see I'm not even adding the rotation yet. Taking the slack out, slight rotation. Should take very minimal effort, especially while drilling. The toe hold is a very powerful submission in the way that we have more range of motion for it. It's also what plays into our defense well is because we need more room to be able to get it. The heel hook is stronger in the sense of pounds per square inch where at a shorter distance traveled, way more force is generated and you can get it from many more places. But a toe hold allows us this big arcing direction to be able to create rotation into the leg and attack the ankle and attack the knee. And it also can be done when we are not necessarily controlling the hip on that same side. So I guess we'll just go on a quick tangent here. 50-50. Great thing about the toe hold as well is because we have so much range of motion, if I'm controlling here 50-50, my right hip's kind of controlled, Kevin's right hip is kind of controlled. But if Kevin, say, triangles his legs and keeps his leg a little bit internally rotated, and I'm able to grab this here, even though I'm not controlling the knee on this side and the hip on this side, by virtue of me controlling the right side of his hip, I've limited his ability to rotate very freely. I'm also still controlling the knee here. So if I control this leg and this leg, Kevin needs to continue rotating to his right to relieve the pressure. Keep rotating to your right, Kevin. He can't because I have this knee. I can't just keep a super relaxed 50-50 here because I'm not controlling the hip and knee strong on the other side. I'm losing everything. So we still have hip and knee just on the opposite side, and then we have lever-based control on the opposite leg. And because I have so much range of motion here, even though his knee is going to be able to move a little bit more to absorb, as I take the slack out of the joint and I start to rotate it, you can see how he's tapping here. So same thing, crunching the foot, taking the slack out of the joint, right there he's already tapping. There's going to be a little bit more slack or slop in the leg because naturally we're not controlling that leg directly, but that's the beauty of the toe hold is that we can just keep cranking with it and we're going to be able to get the submission. There are the rotation base, there are, what the fuck? Extension base, that's it. I'm like, man, I don't know the fucking word. I'm trying to like talk just to buy time.